Well, hey couples, today we're in the studio with Corey and Rhonda. These two are great marriage mentors, and we're going to cover a topic that you guys run into a lot with people that you mentor, okay? The question is, how do I keep my spouse from becoming a roommate, right?
Right.
So you run into this sometimes.
We do, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Almost every couple that we've ever spoken to,
Really?
ourselves included, you just get busy and
Yeah. Okay, so how does this happen? How do you look at this woman or this spouse that you loved, and all of a sudden 5-10 years later you guys are just roommates?
One way, very easy way, is kids. Kids get into the picture, and all of a sudden, you're going to soccer and band and football and whatever else. There's 100 million things, and that's not exaggerating. Mm-hmm. And you're going from dusk to dawn, and you all of a sudden have gone a year or 2 years, and you're like, well, I don't even know what's going on in her life anymore, or his life. It's strange, but it happens.
Mm-hmm. You grow apart.
You can, yeah. And you're not mean to, and there's nothing. It's not on purpose, but what you need to be is purposeful about not letting that happen, I guess.
Right, because the kids just become the priority.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So.
Yeah. Okay. So Rhonda, let me just ask another question before we get to solutions. Okay. Is it usually the man's fault? Is it usually the woman's fault?
I would say it's the man's fault.
Oh, really?
No,
okay.
I think it's both. It's both for sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, this day and age, especially, right? Yeah. A lot of times, both people are working. It can be both.
Right.
A lot of both people working and the electronic devices. So that takes people away from time together and that kind of thing too. Right. So it adds into stuff like the kids taking up space and taking up time.
Yeah. What's the danger when a couple gets to that point where they just feel like roommates? What are some things that can happen to a couple when that happens?
What we've seen is all of a sudden the kids are gone, and then it's just the two left in the house, and they're kind of like, why? Who exactly are you again? And what do you like to do? And sometimes they have a problem with that. Divorce is obviously a big thing in our society right now. Yeah. So we don't want it to get to that point.
Yeah. If they even make it that far, right?
If they make it that far.
Sometimes then the husband or the wife, they're looking for intimacy in somebody else, so infidelity can happen as a result. So it's a serious issue. All right, so what do we do to solve it? What are some tips that you would give couples? What would you tell a couple when you're sitting down with them and you recognize that this is the dynamic that is developed in their marriage?
Well, it's interesting. Usually when we realize that's what's happening and we ask them, do you feel like roommates? They look at each other and they're like, yeah, that's exactly what happens. So I think you need to recognize it first and then realize that your relationship came first. It's the most important relationship in the house, not the kids. It's your marriage, and when the kids are gone someday, it's going to be you and your spouse. So just recognizing that, and then just really making a point. A lot of people talk about date night, and they'll go out and do things, but make it really about just the two of you. Don't talk about work. Don't talk about kids. Yeah. Don't bring your kids. That defeats the whole purpose. And just make it about yourselves. So.
Yeah. Is that hard for you guys? Because you two, you work together.
We do now.
Right? You work together now.
Right.
You do a lot of marriage mentoring together.
Yeah.
So you're with and you raise your kids together, right? So is it hard for you to break away and focus on that?
It is, but we have we have to be purposeful about that.
Yeah.
One blessing for us is that we do work together.
Yeah.
So we can sneak off while we're at work and get a dinner together or something of that nature, which gives us a little bit of time, just us. But we have to make sure that we do that.
Yeah, but is it hard not to talk about work?
Oh, yeah.
Is it hard not to talk about
work? Oh, yes, because sometimes, absolutely. You go to say something, you're like, oh, I can't say that.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's a purposeful conversation.
Yeah, that's good.
It really is.
It's a choice that you have to make to say, we're not going to let this happen in our marriage. We're not going to just be, I remember my wife said that to me years ago, we are not going to be roommates.
Right.
We're just not going to let that happen in our marriage. And so if two people are on the same page, and for some people maybe they just need the language, like probably when you share with couples, they say, I've never thought about it that, but yes,
that almost happens every time.
It's almost like like the light bulb goes off, and we kind of identify that, and then you start. There's a lot of things that go along with that.
And it's really neat too, because the marriage basics leads into that, where one of the lessons Tracy teaches on is love is a choice, not a feeling. So it can still be a feeling. You just have to make that effort. You have to make that choice all the time, every day.
Well, and that's really key is when you make these choices, you both have said purposefully, intentionally, right?
Right.
When you make, some people might be watching this saying, well, I don't want to turn into that. I don't want it to turn into work.
Right.
But when you work for it, then that other stuff is the reward, right? The feeling and the connection and the romance. And
and it comes. That's the purposeful and work part of it is just setting it on the calendar and then making sure that you keep it clear. Once you're there, then it's fun. It's like, we're out, we get to do something. It's just us. Yeah. So that's everybody wants that.
And I think it's important, right? And I think it's important for the kids to see that, because as parents, we're modeling what a marriage should be, and they're going to get married someday.
That's right.
We want to be the best example that we can.
Well, and that's why the marriage relationship is the most important relationship in the home.
Yes.
Not because because you want to neglect the kids, but because that's the best thing you can do for your kids.
Right.
Yeah, everything feeds off of that relationship.
That's right.
If we're the number one relationship in the house, everything falls in line underneath that.
Yeah.
So spending time together purposefully, and then one thing we haven't talked about yet is spending time with God together.
Yeah.
That's important also as a couple. So
that's good.
Praying together, researching, asking questions of each other, and calling each other on things sometimes. That's like, hey, what are you doing? Where's your Jesus goggles right now? They're all angry or whatever, but that's important.
It's good. Well, this is good, and we're going to put more down below this video. I encourage you, couples, talk about this in your couples devotional time or with a marriage mentor. We'll put questions below, and just make sure that you don't allow that dynamic to develop in your marriage where your spouse just becomes a roommate. We'll see you in the next video.